Astrid and the Church Grimm. In the early days of Christianity in Scandinavia, it was believed that the spirit of the first being buried in a new churchyard would be tasked with protecting it against the devil and other malevolent forces. To prevent a human soul from shouldering this burdensome and eternal duty, a custom emerged in certain regions, burying a black dog, alive, in the churchyard before any human interment. This act was meant to guarantee that the dog's spirit would become the guardian or the Church Grimm. The Church Grimm, often perceived as a black dog, might also manifest as a lamb, horse, or even a rooster. Its presence, especially on consecrated ground, was viewed as portentous. A cheerful or benign Grimm was a good omen, signifying prosperity and protection. However, if the Grimm appeared restless or malevolent, it foreshadowed impending doom or calamity.
And so our tale unfolds. Astrid, a vivacious girl half the age of her mother, possessed a relentless yearning for exploration. According to her mother, she often plunged into unnecessary perils. Whenever school allowed, she would visit her grandmother Ingrid, who resided on the outskirts of town near the venerable St. Olav's church. Astrid relished her weekends at Granny Ingrid's cosy abode, delighting in the hour-long saunter through the enchanting forest to get there. Every visit held a unique magic. Granny's tales transported her to times long past. The aroma of freshly baked bread sweetened with honey wafted through the air, and old family memories embraced her like a warm blanket. Above all, Astrid was captivated by Granny Ingrid's tales from her youth, especially the one about her faithful black dog, Skål. Skål was a fierce companion, ever by my side, Granny would recall, her voice wistful, until that fateful day he vanished into the woods, never to be seen again. Whenever she reminisced about this, a cloud of melancholy would dull Granny Ingrid's otherwise sparkling eyes. Having grown up on tales of Fjordheim, Astrid's innate curiosity always shone through. Yet the story of St. Olav's church fascinated her the most. For all the town's ancient history, the church was a relatively recent marvel, standing proud for just 6 decades. It was a symbol of the town's collective spirit and determination. Every soul in Fjordheim, including Astrid's own great-grandparents, had played a role in its erection, ensuring it dominated the skyline. What captivated her most was the belfry, intentionally constructed to outdo any in the neighbouring settlements. Granny Ingrid often recounted, her eyes twinkling with mischief, the friendly rivalry between Fjordheim and its neighbours. Sometimes, while narrating her daring escapades, Granny Ingrid would speak of the time when, as an intrepid youngster, she had ascended by moonlight to the very pinnacle of the yet unfinished tower. From that height, she'd muse, her voice taking on a youthful timbre, Fjordheim transformed into an ethereal land from folklore, with homes appearing as tiny playthings and the moonlit fjord sketching a shimmering trail. Intrigued by such a vista, Astrid yearned to experience it for herself. Her heart ached more for this view than for the ancient stories or mythical legends. She wished to perch atop the tower, feeling the crisp air against her skin and beholding her world from the elevated vantage point of the bell loft. One night in mid-May, driven by youthful zeal and a desire to craft her own tale, she decided to climb the heights of St. Olav's. Despite the cautionary tales about the sacred grounds after dusk, her adventurous spirit and the allure of the mesmerizing view were impossible to resist. She didn't really believe in ghosts anyway, she thought to herself, as she snuck out from Granny's cottage. The full moon cast long, haunting shadows over the churchyard as she stepped through the church's iron-wrought gate. Its metal, cold to the touch, creaked as it swung inward, signalling her entrance onto the hallowed ground. From a distant corner of the graveyard, the first growl rolled in like distant thunder. Astrid paused, her heart drumming in her chest. The darkness played tricks on her eyes, and every shadow seemed to morph and move. Was that the silhouette of a large creature lurking? Another growl, this one unmistakably closer, tore through the still air. Panic surged through Astrid's veins, her feet carrying her hurriedly up the gravel path, each step crunching the gravel faster and further apart. Could it be a wolf? A bear, perhaps? Her mind raced through the possibilities as the growls grew louder, each more menacing than the last. Another growl sounded. It was almost at her ear as she reached for the church's door. Throwing it open, she barely had time to register the dimly lit interior before diving in, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break free. Within the church's sanctuary, there was total stillness. She held her breath, afraid that even the slightest sound might betray her presence. Her back pressing the large door shut behind her, she waited, frozen, her chest aching from the sudden sprint and lack of air. It couldn't last. She had to breathe. Carefully, and with much effort, she let out her breath as silently as she could and sucked in the musty air of the church. She smelled it immediately. Not just the musty smell of the old wooden pews and the Bibles, but something else. Something damp, like soil after rain, and wet animals. Wet fur. She gasped, and the echo that came back at her was not her own. The growl came from inside the church. Astrid, fueled by adrenaline, quickly sought refuge behind a row of psalm books. Something scraped along the stone floor, somewhere in the church, making her heart skip a beat. Desperate to find escape, she stretched her neck out and caught a fleeting glimpse of gleaming red eyes and the hulking shape of a massive black dog at the far end of the aisle. She dashed under a sturdy pew, its wood worn smooth by countless hands over the years. Yet, the echoing growl, now filled with an almost human malice, came ever closer. She couldn't think. Her next move was instinctual as she darted into a side door. As she caught her breath, trying to calm her racing heart again, she caught another glimpse as she retreated away from the door. The dog, or what she perceived to be a dog, was now visible in the dimly lit aisle, its fur darker than the blackest night, and a presence that felt almost otherworldly. She reversed and almost stumbled as her feet found the stairs. She was in the stairwell of the belfry, nowhere to go but up. From somewhere in the church, a peculiar voice echoed, a hoarse growl, morphing into words. "Do you know who I am, child? Can you fathom the depths of the treachery that ties me to this sacred ground? To you?" Before she could stop herself, Astrid whispered, "Who are you?" As she began to ascend the narrow wooden stairs, each step a cautious dance, and yet each step seemed like it was crying out under her weight. "I am Skoll, and you smell familiar," the voice rasped, tinged with menace. "Once devoted, once alive, now ensnared in eternal servitude. Your great-grandfather, to whom I offered unwavering loyalty, repaid my faithfulness with the harshest of deceptions." Astrid listened intently as she continued her ascent, the dog's voice continuing, coming closer faster than Astrid had hoped. To shield the sanctity of these grounds, a guardian was needed, a sentinel against desecration and malevolence. But instead of seeking a willing human, your great-grandfather chose subterfuge. As Astrid reached the tower's summit, darting into the openness of the bell loft, the invigorating scent of the nocturnal forest mingled with the morning breeze, and the magnificent panorama unfolded. Yet, her attention was gripped by the haunting voice steadily ascending from below. "He enticed me to St. Olav's, and beneath a secluded grave's stones, I was interred alive. My anguished howls diminished to pitiful whimpers, which then gave way to silence. Yet, even in death, my loyalty remained unbroken. I became the guardian he sought, the grim, forever tethered to these lands, overseeing the souls at rest here." Skoll, his voice heavy with sorrow, whispered, "Every night I seek him, hoping to make him comprehend the weight of his actions. Tonight, it was you I found." Beyond the belfry, dawn's first light began to creep over the mountains. Here, where spring nights last but a fleeting moment, the advancing day seemed to dissipate Skull's form. "I am bound to protect, so I will not harm you, but I must let you know." His parting words were chilling, filled with both a warning and a strange sense of kinship. "Beware the night, child, for my loyalty has limits, and in the dark, as you have seen, it may not hold."